The YouTube algorithm, man, it's a fucking mystery to me. I need to remember to bleep out actually saying fucking, otherwise I get demonetized. I'm an idiot. I don't make money off the channel. That is just my brain got on autopilot a little bit there. Um, the YouTube algorithm's a goddamn mystery to me, man. Like I, it's so strange. I just want to get on the mic and talk about it a little bit because it's a weird thing to navigate. I feel like back in the day it was never a big thing, right? It feels like in the last like maybe 5 years it's become this, but it's more a buzzword than anything, right? The YouTube algorithm, like, what does it mean? What the fuck is a YouTube algorithm? Like, I don't really know what it means. I don't think anybody knows what it means. Um, but like the gist of it is essentially the way that YouTube promotes videos and suggests it to users. Um, and it's difficult to sort of get to grips with what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to change because it seems like there's no real consistency with it. And I think like it's one of those things you can't control it and you've just got to focus on the things that you you want to focus on, right? And it's what I try to do with my stuff is I try to make the stuff that I really want to make, regardless of how well I think it'll perform, because I realized it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't really matter. Um, I think there's like you sort of have to. There's things to take into consideration. Obviously, like if I made a video on like Assassin's Creed 4 and I named it, you know, this is an analysis of like the history of like saws. That wouldn't work. That would So there are elements that like, obviously matter, but then when you get into like the minute details of titling, does it matter? Is there like some combination of letters in an order that will just work and you have to find it? Or is it a bit more vague and it doesn't really matter as long as you've got sort of the right title and like a decent thumbnail? Because as well, like I've made videos with like pretty terrible thumbnails and they've done well. I've seen videos with thumbnails that are just like, it'll just be like the game's like a wallpaper of the game they're playing or the game is about, with like some fucking like shitty like green Comic Sans text on it, and like that'll perform well. So it's like it doesn't even matter. Like things don't matter. YouTube is just at the end of the day, it's a little bit fucking random. Um, and I think it's one of those things, like obviously like it bothers me, like as a creator, you want people to see your work and you work on something and it does really well and then you do it again and it doesn't, and you're like, what changed here? Because my audience is growing, obviously. Like when something doesn't hit the algorithm, it now does better than it used to, which is great. Like I'm thankful for that I have an audience that grows and wants to see my stuff. um, but then there's like the business part of my brain, the part of my brain that needs to pay bills, needs to make as much money as possible. Um, that's like, I wonder what like, why is this not working? And it does bother you. I think anyone that sort of says it doesn't is, it's either, I think the only way it's not going to bother you is if like it's not your main source of income and it's not something you really up to bothered in growing. But even still, even if like it's not even a money thing, even if it's just um, like a just like a hobby that you enjoy or something you're passionate about, I think there's still an element that you're gonna care. Like you want people to see your work. Like you don't spend hours and hours and hours working on something you care about and not want anyone to see it. Like you do want people to see it. You want people to appreciate it. You want people to connect with it, and that's why you make things. That's why anyone creates anything ever. You wanna feel a connection, and you want to create something that gives people a connection, and that's my biggest thing. Like it's really not the money. It's actually not. Like thinking it through, it's really not that. Especially like, for example, my most recent video, my Grand Theft Auto 5 retrospective, right? It's it's doing fine. Like it's doing fine. It hasn't hit the algorithm or anything. It's not like blown up or anything. Um, it's doing absolutely fine. Um, and I got a really good sponsorship on it. A sponsorship, but you might see the ad appearing on like random videos because it was part of the contract that it doesn't. It's like the ad goes on that video, but also then they can take it and put it in other places too, which is why it was such a good deal because they paid me quite a bit for it, which I appreciate, and it was with a brand that is well respected, so I didn't feel too bad about doing that stuff. Like it's fine. I'm like, that's fine. That's a fine deal. I'm happy with that. Um, so it's not the money thing because I made a lot of money off of that video. Um, it doesn't need views for me to make money off of it. I made more money off of that than I've ever made off of ad revenue on a video ever, I think. So it's not a money thing. It's not that. It really is. I just want people to see it. I just want people to like. I'm proud of it. I want people to see it. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to connect with it and feel like it resonated with them, or it spoke to something that they've always thought, or maybe open their eyes to something they haven't thought before. I think it's that. It's that feeling of like I want to feel useful. I want my stuff to feel valuable. And I think it's also a matter of like there is an element of YouTube's analytics playing into your subconscious. Like you sort of when you've succeeded before, you just want that again. You're like, "Ah, fuck, like this video did so well, and YouTube like rewarded me for it with like being like, oh, we're pushing it out to more people. Well done. Here's some confetti on your homepage and stuff. And then when you don't hit that again, and YouTube's ranking it, they're like, oh, this is like 5 out of 10. I'm like, oh, shit. YouTube's not happy with me. They're disappointed in me. It's like really demotivating and demoralizing. Like I've been meaning to start work on this Red Dead Redemption 2 retrospective. There's something that I'm just so excited to put out there and get to work on, but there's a part of me that's just very demotivated because of YouTube. Like it's such a weird system and process. Like the GTA video is not even doing badly. Like by my channel standards, it's doing decently well. It's doing exactly the normal amount of numbers it should be. In a month from now, 2 months from now, it could have a nice view count to, that people will be like, oh, that's respectable. But there's an element of YouTube's analytics that makes you like reconsider what is valuable and what's important. And I feel like you've got to like rewire your brain almost to not play into that, or to look at that, or to consider that to be like greatly important. And I think it's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult to do because you're used to viewing it a certain way, and I think people are used to, like, in general, used to viewing like numbers as what's important. Like you see, if something has a large number of views, that's good. If something has a low number of views, that's bad, right? Like I feel like we all feel that way, even if we try to feign that. Oh no, I'm too cool for that. I just take value and pride in the creation I've made. It's like there is, to an extent, yes. Like, there's a lot of videos that I've made that have just flopped horrifically, that have just done no numbers at all. But I'm so proud of them, and I think they're great pieces of content. I think they're like great things I've put together and made, and I'm so proud of it, and I always will be. And I'll look back at some of them and be like, that's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. It might not have done well or blown up, but it is one of my favorite videos I've ever made. And so there is an element of that, obviously. Like I can tell, I'm like, yes, that is something I'm proud of. There is an element of satisfaction that comes just from creating something that you take pride in. But at the same time, there is also that element of your brain that just correlates bigger number with better. And that's not good, really, is it? Like, you know what I mean? And maybe that comes from, like, school. Maybe that comes from at school, being taught that a higher grade, especially in creative mediums, like, literature or art or music, right? The higher the grade, the better you are, the more valuable the thing that you've done is. In a medium that can't really be graded, I mean, there's elements, obviously. There's elements of any sort of art form that you can to an extent grade, but you know what I mean in the context that I'm speaking. It's interesting, right? Like, is that where it comes from? Like, have we all just grown up thinking the higher the grade we get, the more important we are, the more value we hold, therefore it translates to social media in X likes, or YouTube views, or subscribers, or, is that the case? Who knows? This was a fucking bad death here. That guy was fucking cheeky, fucking climbing at that building and getting an aerial there, fucking bitch. But no, I think there's like several things to consider, and I think with the YouTube algorithm, it's mainly about reframing the way you view content creation. I think is the most important thing, in order to just feel better about what you do without feeling put down by a website that, while enabling you to share your content, will also judge you heavily. And I don't mean the people on it. I mean literally the website itself will judge you. Like, that's what it does. It will rank your videos. It will tell you if you're doing good enough. It will say looking good, or it'll say, this is bad. Try again. And I think it's reframing your brain and rewiring your brain so you don't look at it in the way that, YouTube is trying to do to exploit you and make you feel bad. But yeah, I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts that I've just been having recently. It's a little bit hard to sort of get your head around it, try and get in a better headspace, and be like, okay, I'm not going to view it like this. I'm going to be happy with what I've done and not feel put down and demotivated just because my video hasn't instantly got 100,000 views. Because that's silly and stupid, and I shouldn't be thinking about it like that, really. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. This was a really good match. I enjoyed this match. I've been streaming some AC multiplayer over on Twitch. If you want to join me for that in the future, I'd appreciate it. Links down in the description of my Twitch, and also the AC multiplayer revival server, where if you want to find people to play matches with on Assassin's Creed Brotherhood Revelations 3 and 4, you can do, because that's where people do it. It's where I do it. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening to this. I'll see you soon for another commentary. Love ya. Bye-bye.